Good morning. Am I on? Is my microphone? There's my microphone. Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalists Fellowship. I'm Paula Despang, and I'm your service leader this morning. So I'd like to welcome you into the room and into the rooms that you have out in cyberspace. We're going to call it collectively all of our shared sacred space. And I'd invite you to turn off your the ringers on your phones now and anything else you might have to make noise in your pockets. We don't need to be distracted or disturbed by this. And if we have any committee leaders to hear from, we will hear from them now. Are there committee leaders to stand up and say something? Use the pulpit, use the pulpit mic. Okay.
Howdy, howdy. You're going to see a lot of me this morning. Good morning. I'm sorry. Not sorry. No, good. All right. 3 things religious education wants to make you aware of. OWL, can I be heard? Should I? Okay. OWL parents meeting is going to be next Sunday after the service here in the building, at about noon, so that you can see the videos, right? Right. And then they'll talk to you about when the class will start at that point. They'll have a better, clearer idea of that. In the meantime, the Parents, Caregivers as Sexuality Educators meeting resumes tonight online at 7 p.m. The link is in the RE News, and if you need it, send me an email. I will be happy to send it to you. Parents of kids of all ages, we're thinking toddler through senior high, but if you need to be there, be there. You're welcome. Lastly, youth group, right, is meeting today at 1 p.m.? Okay, and they're going to be around the fire pit doing s'mores. And isn't this the perfect day for that? All right, that's me.
The sound is coming through on YouTube, but not on Zoom, so there's a problem there. On YouTube, but not on Zoom, so there's a problem there.
Yeah, I'm looking at it myself, trying to figure out.
YouTube, but not on Zoom, so there's a problem there.
Yeah, I'm looking at it myself, trying to
Please do not
figure out.
adjust your set. We're experiencing technical difficulties.
Good morning, Mary Ann from Social Action Committee. We do have a Social Action Committee today after service. It's at 11:55. The link is in the notable news. It's on the website. The Social Action Committee received numerous reminders from me with the Zoom. So please, if you can attend, we have lots of work to do, lots of things that are coming up. Today is Social Action Sunday for us, and the service will be really directed towards that. The last piece is that next Saturday on the 29th, we have the Social Action Committee has committed to Habitat for Humanity. We'll be working in Sanford. And that information has also been in the notable news. If you would like to work with us, please contact me. I need to send you all the information, the waiver, the place that we go, the sort of the guidelines for what we'll be doing. So we hope that you can join us. And our last one in November was canceled for bad weather. I hope this one will happen, but and hopefully it won't be freezing cold like today. Thank you.
So that's everybody. Have our technical difficulties been resolved? Patrick?
Keep going.
Yes, sir. Change my slide, please. That's not the slide I wanted. Thank you. My opening words come from Johnny Marquez. It is now, when we are called as witnesses of the world, to mend it, to change its course, to restore it. It is now, when we are called to act on our values, not to hide, not to fear, but to be bold and loud. It is now that we are called to continue our fight for justice, to organize, to speak up. It is now. Let us gather. Let us give each other courage. Let us worship.
For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. Oh, for each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. Oh, for each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings, and we are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are mothers of courage, fathers of time, daughters of dust, and the sons of great visions. We're sisters of mercy, brothers of love, lovers of life, and the builders of nations. We're seekers of truth, keepers of faith, makers of peace, and the wisdom of ages. We are our grandmother's prayers. We are our grandfather's dreamings, and we are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are mothers of courage, fathers of time, daughters of dust, and the sons of great visions. We're sisters of mercy, brothers of love, lovers of life, and the builders of nations. We're seekers of truth and keepers of faith. We are makers of peace and the wisdom of ages. We are our grandmother's prayers. We are our grandfather's dreamings, and we are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. We are one.
Catch your breath after that. We light a chalice at the beginning of every service in our denomination for all those reasons and so many more. Recite it with me. In the light of truth and the warmth of love, we gather to seek, to sustain, and to share. And we affirm our relationship to each other. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its gift. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek truth in love, and to help one another. For those of you who have not visited with us before, a special welcome. I hope you brought your own coffee. Sorry. And I'd ask you to visit several times if you're looking for a spiritual home. This might turn out to be yours. Visit us several times and experience the breadth and depth of what we have to offer here. Sometimes we have a minister, sometimes we don't. Today is one of the don't days. Don't let that keep you away. Don't let that frighten you off. It's a very well-prepared service. Visit us often, visit us again, and think of this as a smorgasbord. Not every part of it is meant for you, but some part will be, and you will find something nourishing here. We share joys and concerns in this church, and the joys seem to be multiplied when they're shared, and other people go, yay, and they seem to be diminished and divided when they're shared. And somebody says, oh, honey, my heart goes out to you. So we're going to have that, and we're going to begin it with the people in the Zoom community this morning. We're holding on. We're going to breathe and rest while you get that whole thing synced up for us. We're going to breathe and rest while you get that whole thing synced up for us. We're going to breathe and rest while you get the.
Please just let us know when it's our time. Please just let us know when it's our time. We are texting and asking if there's anyone who would like to share out loud. I don't know if everybody's hearing the same echoes. I will let them know there's going to be joys. Yeah, my turn. Ethan has a brief one if that's possible. Go quickly, sweetheart.
So I got a new drone.
Go down a little bit. Show them.
Down?
Show them right there, sweetheart.
You can't see. I will show
There you go. You got that for what?
my birthday.
Good. Yeah. Thanks, y'all.
You can't see. I will show you.
Such is You can't ask me to read that because.
No. Would you like me to read them out loud? Would it be helpful if I just read them out loud for everyone? Yes.
Please do. I can't read it. My vision is failing.
So since we're having technical difficulties, I will read the joys and concerns listed in the chat. David and Marilyn McElroy say that they're thinking of both of their daughters today. I believe that's a concern. John Mowbray posted, their joy is that the McElroys invited them to an outdoor concert and dinner at their place afterwards, so that's nice. And, yep, that's what I see online.
And is Dave going to say something?
They need to talk, I don't.
Tell them to the mic.
Maybe just say, please, if you would like to share, please don't mute yourself and speak or something.
Oh, one at a time, one at a time.
Let's go back. Okay.
It could be that there's an interesting experiment that needs more.
Clearly, this system needs work. And I'll bet you it's going to get it, too. Sorry, Dave, and whoever else is there waiting, hoping to be heard. It doesn't seem like this is going to happen today. You can tell by our persistence with our technology how very desperately we really would like to be closer together and reconnecting with each other. So we'll take a moment of silence for all of this. And everybody, oh, is there anyone here that needs to share a joy or a concern? Okay. Yes.
Good morning. Martha Kirby here, and Reverend Tracy asked me to share the passing of one of our beloved members, Len Schmidt. She did put a small notice in the notable news, but not everyone opens it in a timely manner. He passed away on January 16th, I believe. It's presumed to be a heart attack, and we'll miss him. Miss him. There will be a service later, probably in another couple of months, where hopefully we can be together without the constant worry that it's not a good idea.
I'm Peter Carlson, and I want to speak for millions and millions of Buddhists around the world. A revered leader, Thich Nhat Hanh, just died. Had a tremendous influence on my spiritual development. He was actually instrumental in convincing Dr. Martin Luther King to object to the Vietnam War as strongly as he did. And Dr. King nominated him for the Nobel Peace Prize. So Thich Nhat Hanh, thank you for your compassion over the decades.
And so a moment of silence, sending kindness out to the world for all of this. Amen. We'll have a time for all ages, and Judith is going to tell us how it is.
All right. I want you to know that I created this voting box ballot box so we can all vote. I want you to know that I taped it up with tape that says fragile. And I want you all to put your votes right here. Right now, come on. Oh, you can't put your votes in here? Wait a minute, you don't have any ballots. You guys up there, you can't put your votes in here? Why not?
What are we voting for?
Oh, you don't know what you're voting for. That's a good reason not to put your ballots in here. Why else can't you put your ballots in here? It's too far to drive. You're not leaving your house. You're afraid it won't matter. What if you don't have a car? Can you get here to put your ballots in this box? No. What if on voting day you have a job and your boss doesn't let you leave? What if you need to bring your ID, as we do in Florida, to the ballot box, and you don't have a car and you don't have a driver's license and you've never gotten to the DMV to get your state ID? You can't vote because you can't read the voting ballot. It's not in a language that you understand. Physically, it's difficult to get to the voting box or to reach up to fill out the ballot. I want you to vote. Yeah. Why do we need to vote? It matters, but if we can't do it, we can't state what matters. Let's do this way. We can't state what matters. So we need to do something to make it matter to everybody, that everybody can vote. And this is what I think Marianne will talk about later in the service a little bit, part of the subjects you'll be talking about. If you have something to say about whether you have the right to vote or not, whoever you are, say it. Make a phone call, write a letter, send an email, stand there with a sign. Be loud. You're going to hear more of that in a little bit. Thank you. Oh, did I? No, they're there. They're there. They just went flying. Okay.
We are a generous congregation. We share generously into the basket or into the tiny URL over there. And 40% of what shows up in the basket, this one?
Thank you.
40% of what shows up in the basket, we pass on to some charitable organization in the community that we have carefully vetted and chosen. And this time, I can't read that. Where's it going? Habitat for Humanity. Yes. Everybody needs shelter. There was a song about that. Gimme shelter? Yeah. Old song. Okay. So give now, give generously, and listen to the music while you plan that.
Some folks believe a life begins when egg meets sperm and want to force all pregnant women to carry to term, but their actions point to something that you wouldn't expect, that they think kids only matter when they're not born yet. They'll make sure family leave and childcare funding fails, take away their parents at the border and jail. Kids beg for climate action under crippling debt, while you show them they only matter when they're not born yet. If abortion was the issue, contraception safe from COVID or guns. For once, I wish their actions would disprove what I've said, that they think kids only matter when they're not born yet.
Our presentation today is on reproductive justice. This is Reproductive Justice Sunday all over the world. What does that mean? What does that mean? Obviously, it's going to mean different things to different people. And we have the faithful from the Social Action Committee, some of them, not the whole Social Action Committee, because that would just keep us here till sunset. But just some of them, and they're going to talk to us about what that means to them as individuals, and hopefully you'll find a place where you can grab a hold of some of this.
Thank you, Paula. Hi, everyone. If I could have the slides, that'd be great. Marianne Feldheim. I'm the chair of the Social Action Committee, and if you don't know much about me, I'll share a little. So my background is varied. So I'm a nurse. I've been a registered nurse, not currently. I made the final decision to retire my nursing license just a year ago, after 50 plus years. It's kind of painful. But so my background is healthcare. And I had a diploma, went to a diploma school, got a bachelor's, got a master's. And when it came to a doctorate, I went for public administration and public service. So for the last 20-some years before retirement, I worked at UCF teaching nonprofit management, public service. So my background has been healthcare, the focus. I was editor of the Journal of Health and Human Services. So this is the background I'm coming from. And today we're really, if you look at, Paula talked about it, why is this the Reproductive Sunday? It's the anniversary of Roe v. Wade. That was yesterday, the 22nd, today's the 23rd. 49 years. And we are now at the greatest threat to that we have faced yet. And that's what I'm going to be talking about today. And I'm going to talk about what this looks like. So women's health, it's our first principle, the value, the worth and dignity of each person. So what does women's health really mean? Well, first of all, it means self-determination. It means that an individual can choose what they choose with their life. They can choose to go to the doctor, they can choose not to go to the doctor, they can choose to be vaccinated, they can choose not to be vaccinated, they can choose to believe science or not. And for women, it is the choice to determine how you want to go into sexual activity, and do you want a family, when you want a family, and how do you want that. That is what we are defining as self-determination. And for women, young women, old women, all women, it is valuing yourself. Now, since Roe v. Wade and the women's movement, there has been a lot of progress. But there's also been a lot of complacency, and there's been a lot of change in Florida and many other states where what was the law of the land has been eroded over time. So choosing self-worth. This is our society. Self-worth for women, we need role models, not a princess. We need Mulan out there saving the world. We need Sally Ride going to space. We need role models for women that show they can be powerful, educated, make a difference, not that they are the princess who has to marry a prince to be successful in life. And we have gone down that path, whether we see it or not. The little princesses that we see at Disney and all around Central Florida certainly are a piece with that. We need to reinforce the value of a person, and especially the women, that they're not a sex object, that there's more to life than that. The other is the objectification of women's bodies. This continues. All you have to do is look at the movies or the games that are out there that young adults are playing. What are women wearing? What do they look like? They're Barbie and personified. We also need to teach women inappropriate behavior. How do you identify it? How do you stop it? How do you know what's going on? So sex education is the number one way that we do this. And it is talking about what it means to be a woman. It is role modeling as parents, as people in the community, what it means to be a strong, independent woman taking care of your own body. We need to tell boys and girls, but especially girls, how do you get pregnant? How do you not get pregnant? What should you do? What should you not do? We need to also give them the signs of pregnancy. When we're going to talk a little bit about the bill that's in Florida to the abortion ban at 15 weeks, many women and girls have no idea at 15 weeks they're pregnant. They are not seeing the signs, they don't know. So if there's a ban at 15 weeks, that option has suddenly been taken away if this goes through. Other is talking about sexually transmitted diseases. People think we have penicillin, it goes away, you don't have to worry. Well, AIDS made that a big change there. So we're not doing this. I will tell you now, we are doing it in a very limited way in the schools, and families, for the most part, are not doing it. You here, we have the OWL program, and we'll talk more about that later, but it's a blessing, but it's rare. It is very rare. The other piece that we're not telling young people are the realities of pregnancy. First of all, the economic hardship. What does it mean? Also, the physical. I'm going to talk about the challenges of women. There's mother's mortality, infant mortality, and who has it? Where is it? Also, the social reality. What does that mean? Many of the women who have children that are not planned either are in a relationship they're trying to get out of, many are not in a relationship, so they end up being a single mother. One of our biggest problems when we look at who is poor in Central Florida, predominantly it's women and children, which stems from basically women's health and these issues. Next slide. So what do we need? Access to knowledge, sex education, discussion. Doctors, nurses need to be able to talk to young women, young men about this. We also need education about the realities of raising a child. When I went to school, which was many years ago, we had home ec. We also had shop. So I learned. We also, that a few years later, they had, where in high school, you had to carry the melon as your baby, and you had to have some reality. We're taking those things away. There's very little discussion of that in the schools. So the realities, both the economic, the social, the racial, all of those things need to be shared with young people. They need to hear the realities of it. They have glorified it. Contraception. Contraception, women have been, since the 1920s, and predominantly it's women, saying that contraception should be freely available. There should be multiple types for boys and girls. It should be used responsibly. People need to know that if you have it, how do you use it? And how do you make sure that it's working? The other is access to medical care, which is a huge issue for a lot of the population who are in rural areas. They're not getting medical care, and they're not getting examinations or education. Prenatal care saves maternal lives. Obstetrical care, pediatric care for the infant. Those things are, in Florida, the poor are getting that through Medicaid. And Florida has chosen not to expand Medicaid, so we have limited access to that. Next slide. So this came from Morgan Stanley, so I thought for a poor person, yes. At age 6, $80,000 for your child, which may be, you're not getting piano lessons if you're very poor, but you certainly have to take care of all the pieces. First, if it's a mother, who's going to take care of the child? If you don't have a support system, You have to take care of the child, which means you can't work. And we have limited the benefits to women and children. Children need food, shelter, health care, clothing, entertainment. These are costly. So if you add that to a family, say, of 3, you've already added at least $10,000 a year to their expenses. That's not being considered. That's not being considered by our legislators, and it's not being considered by young people when they are freely going into parenthood, or they are going into parenthood unknowing, not even knowing that it's happening, and suddenly it's their reality. Next slide. So infant mortality rates. This is key. I want you to look at this because who is being impacted? If you see the tallest bar, it's 10.8, and you see the lowest. So the second lowest are the lowest are the Asians, and basically it's the whites who are the second lowest. So it's African Americans who are more than double infant mortality rate of the white population in this country for a number of reasons. They don't have access to health care, they're poor, they're not aware. So if we're looking at it, this is for, I think it's 1,000 live births if you're looking there. Now, let's look at maternal mortality rates. So if we're looking at it, you can see, again, the tallest bar, and it's out of, for this one, I have the correct piece here, it's out of 100,000. So we think that pregnancy these days is so safe. It isn't. Pregnancy has never been safe. And when we talk about abortion, abortion is 90% safer than a pregnancy, if you were looking at a professional physician or a nurse practitioner who are doing that. So if we're looking at the mortality, it is in 100,000 people. So if we see that, that's basically, it is like 40 black women die out of every 100,000 who get pregnant. The other piece which isn't there is that the trends since 1987 have been going up. So the deaths for mothers giving birth have increased, they've more than doubled. In 1987, there were 7.2 deaths per 100,000 pregnant women. In 2017, it was 17.3. So it is going up. And who are we seeing? It's going up with minorities and primarily black women. So reproductive rights. Reproductive rights should not be a political issue. It's all these others. It's a continuum of issues. It starts with gender equality. It starts with women valuing their own body, with women having the choice to decide how and when they want to be pregnant, if they want to be pregnant, how they choose to do that. It's a social issue. As we enact more and more laws, we are going to have more and more women and children who are poor, who are needing health care, who are being denied, or our social safety network has eroded dramatically. So we have a situation where we are increasing things that we had actually at some point turned around. Things were looking much better in 1987 than they are now. So it's certainly a racial issue, economic, education, and it's a class issue. So interventions, gender equity and equality, education, healthcare, childcare, social support. We have not done a good job on any of these in the US, and in Florida, even less. So currently, and the political update, so the salient piece that this is the anniversary of Roe v. Wade is that it looks dramatically like we are going to lose it. So if this is what, and I'll tell you the next 2 slides, Evelyn Talent gave us these, so I'm just going to paraphrase them a little bit and then talk about some things that are coming up in Florida. So the stare decisis, basically it is case law, that if the Supreme Court decides something, that becomes case law. And other courts defer to that. So Roe v. Wade has been, for 49 years, the case law that was deciding anything that had to do with abortion, abortion bans, women's care. So that is now going to the Supreme Court, and as Evelyn so succinctly points out, it is eroding, and the Supreme Court with the last president was heavily loaded with conservatives who are leaning very much towards eliminating or turning back the clock and making decisions that would not support Roe v. Wade. And they will be hearing the Mississippi law in the summer, the Texas law, which is the most onerous one out there. I can't say enough about this. If you want to think back, it's been 70 plus years since World War II, and the Nazis were taking over Europe. One of the most onerous things they did was they turned children and neighbors against each other. Turn someone in. If you think they're subversive, turn them in. We will send them to camps. We will punish them. What are they doing in Texas? You think your neighbor is going to go to an abortion clinic? You turn them in and we'll prosecute them. You think someone is helping another person go to another state to get an abortion? We will prosecute the person taking and the person getting the abortion. They have taken it to draconian measures in Texas. It's there. It's happening. No one has stopped it. So the key piece right now is that it's up to us. We need to know what's on the forefront, and the forefront is sitting at our doorsteps. So next slide. So what Evelyn has said is certainly Roe v. Wade is going to be challenged. And she talks about, and I think it's extremely sad that it's two Republican women who put this bill forward for in the House Bill 5, which is the 15-week ban. And the key piece on this 15-week ban is that the only way a woman could get an abortion after 15 weeks is if there is a doctor's certification that there is a birth defect that will cause death on birth. Death. The child has to be so deformed that they will die. It doesn't cover incest. It doesn't cover rape. It doesn't cover other types of birth defects that could, burden that child for life. It doesn't cover any of those. It's not as draconian as Texas, but it is certainly moving up there. So there are other bills that have been introduced. But I want to give you, there is an update, so I will just tell you that last Friday, and I'm looking for my notes here because it's not on the slide. So the League of Women Voters of Seminole County hosted last Friday, so 2 days ago, a webinar on reproductive rights. It was Anna Escamani and Amy Reinfeld, and they talked about what is the current situation. So they gave a lot of information. I would encourage you, it was recorded, so you can go to the website for the League of Women Voters, Seminole County, under recordings. The whole piece is there. There are a lot of information. So as I said, it's House Bill 5, the 15-week abortion ban, and the other piece that I need to share with you is that it also defines the abortion pill. There is a safe pill that you can get through the mail. Internationally, they're selling it. You can get it. You can do it at home. You don't need a doctor's order to do this. Some do, some do not. But they are defining ways to prevent people from getting that. So there is, in the early stages, that pill does not work if after a certain weeks gestation. But in the very early days, it does, and it was extremely effective. It's used worldwide. They are limiting that. They're putting that in that bill. The more onerous thing, which I just cannot believe they're doing, is that there are two other bills on anti-sex education. So there's Senate Bill 1842 and House Bill 1302. Parents must opt in to sex education for their children. They must absolutely sign the form. The child will get absolutely no sex education in school. And how many families talk about this? How many parents sit down and are free and discuss it? So if it's not in school, and the OWL program is unique because most churches are not doing this, and other agencies are not doing this. So how are our kids going to get this information? Boys and girls, how are they going to know how to protect themselves? So this completely, well, severely limits access to any kind of informed education. They're also, with that, limiting what physicians can say. So I do encourage you to see the video. Anna had a wonderful quote. These bills punish the poor for sexual activity and for being poor. And they punish women. Women are under attack. I mean, you really have to look at this as a woman's issue, because who bears the brunt of a pregnancy? It's the woman. Physically, emotionally, economically. So these are things that are happening. The other piece is the failure to expand Medicare in Florida, or Medicaid, because Medicaid covers many of the services to the poor for both pregnancy, for prenatal care, for obstetrical care. So I'm going to wrap up. There are two things you can do. First of all, if you go to the last slide, yes, please help us fight. One way, first of all, in your phone, please put down the phone number and the email for your representative in the Florida legislature, the Senate and the House. So when these things are coming up, when you see it in the mail, when you hear it on the news, you can send them a text. Don't vote on this, oppose this. It doesn't take much to go to your phone. We're texting everything else. We could certainly do that. We also have on our website for SAC, the UU Justice Florida. So they send out, if you sign up, the link is there, they send out alerts. So they'll tell you when there's a hearing, when they're going to vote. Be aware, be informed. So with that, I am going to turn over the podium to, I think it's Chris, who's going to talk about the OWL program. And I have to cough now.
Good morning. I'm here to talk about OWL. OWL stands for Our Whole Lives, and it's a program developed by the UUA and the United Church of Christ a long time ago. I'm thinking the OWL program actually started in the 90s, but I think in the 70s, the UUA, which is our the parent group, the parent association that we are all part of, established committees to talk about and figure out how we could promote reproductive rights and sexual health for everyone. So OWL is more than just a sex ed class, and it covers, they have programs that start in kindergarten and go through adulthood. We here at the church have always offered one that combines middle and high school, and we'd like to offer a broader variety, but there just aren't enough of us. So hopefully we can expand it. But OWL is, the main tenets of OWL are self-worth, to affirm and respect ourselves as well as others, sexual health, responsibility, justice, and inclusivity. And it isn't just about the mechanics of sex, although we do talk about them honestly, and we talk body parts, and we for both boys and girls together. And it starts out being very uncomfortable, as you can imagine, but the group builds a lot of confidence in each other and in their information, and they come together and support each other and have a great time and learn a lot, because we believe that information is power, and it's just as important to have the correct information as it is to have enough self-worth, enough belief in yourself that you can make correct decisions with that information. And so OWL really promotes values and is based on accurate, honest, age-appropriate, and value-based information. I came up with a paragraph that really sums it all up in a lot better words than I have. Honest, accurate information about sexuality changes lives. It dismantles stereotypes and assumptions. It builds self-acceptance and self-esteem. It fosters healthy relationships, improves decision-making, and has a potential to save lives. For these reasons and more, we're proud to offer Our Whole Lives, or OWL, a comprehensive lifespan sexuality education curricula in our church. And we do this every other year. We don't have the bandwidth to do it more often, although we're developing, we hope, a second team so that perhaps we can offer it every year. We've done this for many years, and it's a real passion of mine, and we have a wonderful team that's put together and really has been committed to the youth of our community, because we usually open it not just to our church, but to other youth in the community, because it does save lives, and it does make a difference forever. We've had many youth that have took OWL many years ago come back and tell us stories about ways that it impacted them and helped them. And as Marianne was saying, it's just as important for the boys to understand as it is for the girls, because everyone should respect each other and themselves enough to make good decisions about sex and health and life. Absolutely. So OWL promotes a lot that is healthy and wonderful, and we're starting next month. Thank you very much.
So, Marianne has given you the statistics and some facts and some important reminders. I'm going to talk to you about why you come to church, to hear about reproductive justice. But I'm going to start with letting you know that I was reminded by a friend on Facebook recently that we are in the middle of Mercury is in retrograde. I love the little laughter. I'm wondering what's happening up there. I love the laughter I'm getting here. To those who practice astrology, these times in particular were traditionally associated with confusion, delay, and frustration. Think undelivered love letters, email blunders. Messed up Zoom, exactly. Frazzled traveled plans. This is an excellent time to reflect on the past. However, it is also said that this time is high, intuition is high during these periods, and coincidences can be extraordinary. And I think the coincidence that we are going through what we are going through right now while Mercury is retrograde is extraordinary. Now, the reason I bring it up specifically is because some of the information that we're hearing today is difficult. It's confusing, and whether you believe in the astrological effects of a planet, Mercury, appearing to be moving backwards in the sky, it isn't really. It just looks that way. The frustration, the confusion, the misunderstandings that happen when we are sharing important information like this are not a reflection on you or me or any of us. This is bigger than one of us. So take a deep breath and give yourself a chance to absorb what you're hearing today. My portion of this talk is specifically about reproductive justice, and it's more than just abortion rights. Have you, and I'm speaking to every one of you, have you ever considered making an intentional decision about whether or not you wanted to, or might want to, or might not want to be part of the process of bringing a new life into this world? What kind of choices did you have in making that intentional decision? Did you have, as you heard today, birth control choices? Did you have options to choose from if unexpected things happened? What was involved in that decision? Readiness, lifestyle, money, emotional support, beliefs, access to medical care, legality of the choice you made? Were there barriers in making way for those intentional choices? Financial, as I said, gender or sexual orientation? Legal ramifications? Your personal health status? Your drug or alcohol use? Harassment? Parental influences? I'm borrowing now from a piece by an organization called Sister Song, and you can find them if you want to look them up on sistersong.net. Sister Song is are women of color. They are a reproductive justice collective formed in 1997 by 16 organizations of women of color from many communities, Native American, African American, Latina, and Asian American, who recognize that they have the right and responsibility to represent themselves and their communities, and the equally compelling need to advance the perspectives and needs of women of color. Sister Song defines reproductive justice as the human right to maintain personal bodily autonomy, have children, not have children, and parent the children that they have in safe and sustainable ways and communities. They state that they believe that reproductive justice is a human right. It is about access, not choice. And it's necessary, but mainstream movements have focused on keeping abortion legal as an individual choice. That is necessary, but not enough. Even when abortion is legal, women of color cannot afford it or cannot travel hundreds of miles to the nearest clinic. There is no choice where there is no access. It's not just about abortion. Abortion access is critical, and women of color and other marginalized women also often have difficulty accessing contraception, as was mentioned earlier, comprehensive sex education, as was mentioned earlier, STI prevention and care, alternative birth options, adequate prenatal pregnancy care. All of this is reinforcing what you've all heard already. And I changed the word now. People have access, not just women, not just men. People of all cultures, of all gender orientations have need of this access to make decisions. If you are LGBTQ, somebody might have an opinion as to whether you have the right to access. So this means you, it matters to you. If you read my RE News this week, you may have heard this next piece. No, I don't, you get to hear it again. Martin, and I don't pronounce the German well, Niemöller, was a German theologian and a Lutheran pastor. He is best known for his opposition to the Nazi regime during the late 1930s, and had the following familiar quotation, which I'll read in a moment. But the other one you need to think about is the communist, who am I thinking of? What's his name? Marx? No, here in the United States, during McCarthy, thank you, the McCarthy hearings, it's happened here. And this is why you're in a church hearing this today. First, they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. I asked in the RE News this week, what stanzas you might add to this, if you were adding to it today, and who are you in this list? Then they came for the sex worker, and I did not speak out because I was not a sex worker. Then they came for the differently abled, and I did not speak out because. Then they came for the LGBTQ community, and I did not speak out because. Then they came for people of color, and I did not speak out because. Then they came for the Democrats, the Muslims, the Republicans, the humanists, the scientists, the teachers. And I did not speak out because. And then they came for me, whoever me is. Reproductive justice isn't just about you. It is about a wider group, right? It is our seventh principle. It is an interdependent web of all existence issue. If Roe v. Wade gets struck down, we got a whole lot of work to do. Tag, Martha.
The book that I just placed there, that's entitled Trust Women, is really all I want to say today. This book was written by a Presbyterian minister who's also a professor of ethics at Elon University. And the Florida Interfaith Coalition for Reproductive Justice and Health and Justice, we added justice, of which I'm on the board, sponsored her to speak to. I think some of you were there. At the First Unitarian Church, probably 4 or 5 years ago. You know, with COVID brain, I really have no idea of when that was. But it was excellent. And regardless of your individual beliefs on abortion and whether you're an evangelical Christian who thinks it's the word of God that it should never happen, as a discussion I had with a very good friend yesterday, and she will never change her mind, and that's wonderful for her. And you cannot legislate from that position, in my opinion. My portion of the talk this morning was to be about voices of faith, because we have been since, well, forever, women and people of faith have worked to understand their bodies and decide when they wanted to have children or not, and to make decisions that are personal for them, because no one understands a person's circumstances better than the person that's involved. And to make one-size-fits-all decisions doesn't work. It doesn't work with clothes. Every time I see one size fits all or most, I just laugh because it's not going to fit me. And that's not the way I want to live my life. So I have lots of information here. In the interest of time, I'm going to save you from hearing me tell you all about it. But just know, from as early as 1966 and way before, a Methodist minister and an American Baptist minister helped start the clergy consultation services that provided women access to make decisions about their bodies when there were no other options for them, to keep them from dying, going to a back alley. Peggy Howland, if y'all remember, she spoke to us a few years ago. She's in this article that I found on the web. A Presbyterian minister and one of the few ordained women at the time, also worked with women with unintended pregnancies. She accompanied one college student to Puerto Rico for an abortion with a trusted provider, making clandestine arrangements in collaboration with the student's parents and a fellow Presbyterian minister. This clergy consultation service morphed into the Religious Coalition for Reproductive Choice, RCRC, which is still around today. And how many of you have heard of Catholics for Choice? Yeah, they really exist, and I was surprised when I first found out, and what a service they offer to counter the hierarchical decisions of the Catholic Church. The founding organizations of the Religious Coalition for Reproductive Choice in 1973, the American Jewish Committee, the American Jewish Congress, the Anti-Defamation League, the Catholics for Choice, the Central Conference of American Rabbis, Disciples for Choice, the Episcopal Church, Episcopal Women's Caucus, the Jewish Reconstructionist Movement, the Jewish Women International, the Lutheran Women's Caucus, the Methodist Federation for Social Action, the Metropolitan Community Church, the National Council of Jewish Women, the Presbyterian Mission Agency, Presbyterians Affirming Reproductive Options, the Rabbinical Assembly, the Reconstructionist Rabbinical Association, the Society for Humanistic Judaism, Union for Reform Judaism, the Unitarian Universalist Association of Congregations, the Unitarian Universalist Women's Federation, the United Church of Christ, the Women of Reform Judaism, the Women's League for Conservative Judaism. It's a broad-based national interfaith movement that brings the moral force of religion to protect and advance reproductive health, choice, rights, and justice through education, prophetic witness, pastoral presence, and advocacy. We've always been there. We've always been speaking out, but we haven't been as loud and as well organized as those on the right or the evangelical Christians that have taken or appear to have taken the moral high ground, that their opinion is what should be law. We've got to get louder. We've got to speak up. We've got to show up. We've got to vote. We've got to call people out. It's just, I'm going to stop now because it's just going through all this information was very emotional for me. As someone who has a daughter that I love, I'm thankful that I could have a child that I wanted, that I decided to have once I knew there was not severe brain damage for those. And I did not ask Abigail if I could share this story, but I didn't know I was pregnant for a while, not because I'm dumb, but because everyone's different. And I worried a lot because, you know, she had some problems with her feet. When you go to the library and you read all those terrible things that could be a sign of, you get really scared about how you can handle this. And the only thing that kept me sane then was knowing I could go to Atlanta at 24 weeks if I wanted to, if I chose that path for myself and have an abortion. Well, I didn't have to. The test came back. It was only cosmetic. It was all fixed. She's a wonderfully sound person, and I'm so glad to have her. I don't know what I would have done had the test been different, because I didn't have to make that decision. I didn't, you know, it's all hypothetical until it hits you. And for our government, especially in Florida, it's making me think about moving to another state or another country. And we need to trust women, and people of faith need to speak out, because the only voices being heard right now, the loudest, are the ones we probably disagree with. So let's get out there. Thank you.
Wow. And the fact of all this is that some of us will feel the call to go to do this work. Not all of us. But when you feel that call, jump up, don't wait.
Can I come back?
She wants my microphone again. Can you believe this, gal?
There's a new movement starting from the Texas Freedom Network, and it's called Sacred, and it stands for, I can't remember, but it's going to be a nationwide push to develop sacred congregations. There'll be some work to go through. The Unitarian Universalists are on board. It starts the 25th and 26th of this month. I sent it out to the SAC committee, and there's going to be at least 3 of us listening and then bringing this back to our congregation. So I hope that y'all will start, maybe coming to the SAC committee, that maybe we can find a committee to work on this, because it's important, and it's nationwide. It's starting in Texas, who is just as awful as Florida right now. So. The purpose, I have something written about it, and I will share it in the notable news or under the SAC committee if we decide that today, and let you know more about it. I'm sorry that I didn't get my notes in order. I got just a little fired up today. Thank you.
Fired up is a good way to be. There are people, I've met people who are worried about burning out. And to them I say, first you have to be fired up. Nobody burns out unless they've been fired up. This is just the way it all comes together. And so, in winding up or winding down our program this morning, many thanks to those who spoke, all the research you did. We're going to extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. May that day be sooner rather than later. And we have one more song, and then I'll have more words.
There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my soul, and it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my heart. There's a river flowing in my heart, and it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my heart. There's a river flowing in my mind. There's a river flowing. There's a river flowing in my mind. And it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my mind. River flowing in my mind. There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my soul. And it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my soul. Flowing in my soul, yeah. There's a river flowing. There's a river flowing. There's a river.
closing words today are from Roddy Biggs. Friends, thank you for your witness to all that exists on the margins. Thank you for your commitment to hold yourselves and one another in great and steadfast love. Moving forward from this space, may we continue to nurture spiritual growth. May we continue to travel along the winding pathway to healing. From whatever brokenness we individually and collectively hold, knowing that we do not journey this path alone. Thank you. Be well, be safe, be happy, and be back. The SAC meeting will start a few minutes late, and you can now turn your noisemaker telephones back on.